and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
And the real good one has stepped into the office. In fact, to an office that'll soon be at 75%, just like everybody else's. David Whiting, well-known Melbourne solicitor, who offers you free legal advice. Hello, David.
Hello, Virginia.
75% next week, the government says. Yep.
Yes.
You back?
We're pretty much back. I've got one person who's working from home full-time.
Yep.
And she hasn't been in the office since March last year.
I'm very happy about that. She is.
And rather likes it.
Yes.
She lives in the outer suburbs, and she finds that she's got back 2 hours a day from not coming to the office.
Now, do you reckon it'll badly affect morale, ultimately, that you're not all there together? That you won't have the same culture that you had before?
I really think, and I've had this discussion with a couple of people, both inside and outside the firm, but I actually think that part of working with other people is the conversations you have in the passageway, you know, what they call the water cooler conversations. That's right, yeah. I actually think working from home is fantastic, but now you're a contractor. You might as well be a contractor, and if you're going to work from home, on one view it doesn't matter if you're in Melbourne or Mumbai or Manchester, because you're not, you know, and what I found was fascinating was that when I was ringing people at home, it wasn't to see how you were, but really just because I had a question about something they were working on. So all of the other conversations that you have weren't happening.
Interstitial conversations.
Yes.
Yeah. And
you learn a lot.
You learn a lot. They're useful, and they connect you. It's sort of the connective tissue. Does no one want free legal advice? Nobody. You're all fine. There are no legal problems in Melbourne. You should go now. Before you go, I'll just give them one more chance. 1300 222 774. I have more than a couple free lines here. Full board of calls a moment ago to talk about gay conversion therapy, but no one needs legal advice. You're all fine. You're all wealthy. You can afford to pay how much an hour?
A lot.
A lot an hour?
A lot.
In order to get advice. Yeah, come on, give us a call, 1300 222 774. Homework, David?
We had one from a couple of weeks ago. Annie from Clunes rang, and she was ringing about her daughter, who I'm fairly sure doesn't live in Clunes. And what had happened was the suburb in which she lived was having a hard rubbish collection.
Oh, she tripped over the hard rubbish collection.
Her daughter did,
Yes.
and has got some very serious injuries. There'll be long-term rehabilitation. And so the question was, who is responsible? Well, I think the short answer is that it's not the council. There's a couple of provisions in the Road Management Act, and one of them specifically says that a road authority doesn't have a statutory authority or a common law duty to maintain, inspect or repair the roadside. So your liability or the liability rests with the person who put the rubbish in the place where it was that caused your daughter to trip over it. And you're never going to find that person. No.
Oh, dear. And she's not been able to work since, apparently.
No. So there's.
She's stuck.
Well, we've looked a few times in the past at whether there would be a national compensation scheme. We don't have one. New Zealand does, but we don't.
Okay.
And the other homework was last week. Tim from Coburg, and Tim's young daughter got caught her arm in the edge of a large swimming pool, and he spent 45 minutes in the pool holding her in place, and emergency services were called and cleared her from the obstruction, and an ambulance was called. And the question is, who pays for the ambulance? And it's a tricky question. And the general proposition is you don't get charged for calling an ambulance, you get charged for using an ambulance service.
Right.
And there's a lot to be said for being a member of the ambulance service. Charges are $1,265 for a metropolitan emergency road transport, $546 if they treat you but don't take you anywhere, and if you are in a helicopter, it's going to cost you at least $11,000 and potentially $28,000. So
wow.
But if you look at the regulations, it says that that if you are transported by an emergency ambulance, then the person who was transported has the fee liability. But it would appear to be that on that analysis of the legislation, it's Section 10 of the Ambulance Services Act, Tim doesn't have a responsibility. And you can still have an argument about whether it's reasonable or unreasonable.
Okay. With the 26 grand for your helicopter, does my insurance cover that if I've taken
If you are an ambulance member,
Yep.
it covers it. But imagine you're down on the peninsula and there's an incident on the foreshore and
Yep.
you get helicoptered to a Melbourne hospital.
Yep.
Either $11,000 or $26,000. So a lot to be said for signing up.
Sign up, people. Chris and Moorabbin, you're first up, and David Whiting is here with you. Good morning.
Morning. Just a quick, and I won't mention the hospital or whatever, but if you take somebody to the hospital and they aren't diagnosed and they're insisting on x-rays and stuff like that and they're refused by the hospital, was turned away from the hospital, now this person is having their life support turned off today at a different hospital.
Yep.
So what legal recourse is there against the hospital that turned you away in the first place, or are you just tough luck because it's medical indemnity?
No, the hospitals have insurance. The doctors at the hospitals all have insurance. You're going to have to prove that had they done the tests you asked to be done, they would have found it. And
well,
that would have
they
then...
turn it to another hospital, diagnosed within 1 hour. They're straight in for an x-ray. Oh, this is the problem. Sorry, it's terminal.
So to be absolutely brutal and to put my soulless lawyer's hat on, we're talking about what difference did an hour make. Is that what we're arguing?
No, this is over a period of days. They've been turned away from... they're told to go to their GP. They'll turn away from the hospital, told to go and see their GP. The GP said it was asthma. And it wasn't until the person who's 15 collapsed in his home and was revived by his mother that it was taken. 3 ambulances turned up and took him to hospital, and he's been in the coma ever since.
But it's
over a period of days.
Chris, where I would go here is I'd be talking to the Health Services Commission.
Yep.
And it's an ombudsman for health services.
Yep.
And what you really want to know is what and why and how.
Yep.
Where you then go in terms of a compensation type claim is that we've got a 15-year-old, and as a general proposition, we allow compensation claim. If somebody dies, the compensation claim is for dependents, not for the estate of the person that died, if that makes sense. So there's 2 issues. There's an issue in relation to somebody died in these circumstances, and investigation is warranted from the point of view of the system learning not to make these mistakes again. And then from the point of view, there's a compensation claim, but I would have thought your compo claim would be quite weak.
Chris,
it's not about money. It's about accountability.
Absolutely. Chris, I'm very, very sorry to hear that really sad story.
It happens every day.
Yeah, clearly. Good luck to you and your family. I'm genuinely sorry to hear about that. Philip in Keilor, good morning. Philip, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Very
Hi,
well,
go
thank you,
ahead.
Philip.
Thank you for taking my call. Simple one. A tree on the natural strip, the roots damage the main pipe, broken, and between the city water and the council, we finished paying the whole docket and the whole hassle.
As I explained at the we had a call a couple of weeks ago, and effectively councils are not liable to maintain or repair or inspect the roadside of any road. So if something like that happened, then the answer would be that the council doesn't have a liability. If you think that the council is putting the wrong kind of trees in your nature strip, having regard to the area, then you can talk to the council or you can talk to the ombudsman about council policy. But effectively, you don't have a claim against council.
But the tree belongs to the council, and at very low level, the roots span the valve.
Look, can I accept that it's a council tree and it's a council tree that's causing the problem? But under Section 107 of the Road Management Act, they don't have an obligation to do anything about it.
Who does?
Nobody.
Nobody.
No, there were a series of cases that went to the High Court where people were going and running along a trail by a river or a freeway and tripped on a tree root. And the question then was, was asked, do the people who put the trail in have to keep coming along and topping up the soil because the roots are now exposed? And the answer was the court found that they did, so they changed the legislation to mean that they didn't.
So no one does?
No.
So the council will just deal with those areas, what, just out of the goodness of their heart?
No,
not because they're obliged
they
to.
will have a policy, and it's not that they. What we're really talking about is, do they have an obligation to constantly monitor and maintain? No, but if they start to repair something, then they're required to do it properly, and if they don't do it properly, then they have that liability.
Okay. Jules, good morning to you. How can we help?
Oh, hi, David, Virginia. My question is about my father being able to make a will. He has a form of vascular dementia, which is very slow-moving, and he has previously made a will, but no one can find it. So at what point is he no longer fit enough to make his own will?
There's a concept called testamentary capacity, Jules.
Yep.
Does he have the capacity to make a will? That's not necessarily doesn't necessarily mean the ability to sign the document. The question is, does he understand what he has in broad terms, and does he understand who he might choose to leave it to? So is he aware of the claims on his generosity? And if you reach if one of those is missing, then it's very likely that he doesn't have the capacity to make a new will.
And who would determine that? Would that be the solicitor who was making the will?
Well, you would normally, ideally you might get the will witnessed by a doctor.
Okay.
All right. So the question, let's assume that I feel aggrieved as a result of me missing out under your dad's will because of I didn't think he had capacity.
Right.
I got a benefit under the last one. I'm not getting a benefit under the new one. I'm aggrieved. I go along and my argument would be that Jules's dad didn't have testamentary capacity at the time he made the will. And what's going to happen will be he dies, and there will be on the death certificate a notation that says dementia, 5 years, and the will is 2 years old. Well, the probate office is going to ask me to prove that at the time your dad made the will, he had testamentary capacity. So I might say, if that's where you're at, you deal with that now,
right?
Not in retrospect. So, and I find that people go through periods of lucidity. Some days they're better than others.
Yes, that's true.
It might take you 5 or 6 goes to get it right. All right.
Okay, so worth pushing on then.
Okay,
well,
Jules,
I would push on and probably do it over 2 or 3 visits rather than just one.
Good luck with that, Jules. James in Maidstone, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. I have a question regarding how long one needs to hold on to mail that received your property from a previous occupant.
Oh.
We've been here for now 11 months and we continue to get mail. It's from Strawberry Hills in New South Wales. Is one of the addresses to a particular occupant who'd obviously been used that at our address prior to us being there.
You have no obligations in relation to that mail at all, James?
We don't have any.
No, and my recollection is that Strawberry Hills in New South Wales will be a bulk mailer from way back.
It looks like it's a traffic sort of thing. Sometimes it comes in red.
Oh, well, they're interesting. Let's assume that it's a ticket from Roads New South Wales. Yes. Their difficulty is that they are obliged by law to send it to the address on the licence.
Right.
So car registration or the whatever database they're required to run for car ownership or licences, that's where they're obliged to send it to.
James, have you not considered returning it to sender?
Oh, we've returned, I'd say, about between 25 and 30 to sender. Because my understanding was that we were obliged to return the mail.
Yep.
So we've done that and put on the note that this person
doesn't live here anymore. Yeah, I've done that too. So no obligation at all there, David?
No obligation at all.
All right.
It's a piece of mail. It's not mine. Yep.
You're free and clear. Put it in the bin. Is that what you're saying?
I am.
I would find that so hard.
Well,
putting someone's mail in the bin.
I think one needs to be fair, but yeah.
All right. Mario in the city. Good morning. What's happening?
Good morning. I had an office in the CBD, Melbourne CBD. and I had a tenant, 1 year lease, which is finished his lease July 21. But what's happened? Next neighbor wants to take over my office, and they understand, they agree each other, and they come to me. I say, okay, we do new lease, and the new tenant wants to take out the wall and make the big office. I said, okay, and they did it, and I've got 3-year lease with the new tenant. And
so you're the landlord, are you, Mario?
Yes, I am the landlord.
Right, and you now have a 3-year lease. Yes.
3-year lease, the new tenant, which was the next neighbor. Now,
so what's your question?
Question is, he opened the wall. I say, okay. He asked me to new carpet, everything. Now, first month he pay. After that, he asked me to, can you do discount? And I did till July, till December, half. And now he gone to the overseas. He cannot come back, and he's asking me, he wants to terminate the lease. What is my right?
Or whatever the lease says.
Everything.
No, Mario, it's not. You've signed a lease. That's the deal. You've leased him a larger premises than you had leased to the previous tenant. I think really it's your issue, Mario. You can hold him to the lease, or you can ask him for a fee to terminate.
He doesn't want both. I already.
I'm sure he doesn't. But he has a contractual obligation. Your problem is that your tenant is overseas. We don't know if the tenant is ever coming back.
He will, because his office was open. His stuff is still coming. They are open. He will come back.
Well, then the answer would be you might choose to simply wait so your rent can get paid.
And wait till he comes back.
He wants to put the wall back. He wants to give my office, and he wants to continue where he was before, which is the next.
Oh, okay. He wants to reduce his floor space.
Yes.
Then the answer would be, well, I don't know what the answer is going to be, Mario, but you could agree to it if he agrees to meet your costs.
Yes.
Yes.
But he doesn't want anything. He just say, I want to put the wall and give the key to you, terminate the lease, 3 years.
From a legal perspective, Mario, you have a lease. You have a contract.
But does Mario then need to go and talk to a lawyer and get a lawyer's letter sent to said person? Because clearly the back and forth is not working, right?
No.
So what happens now?
Well, you could terminate the lease because he's not paying the rent. But then that mightn't work. It's a commercial decision from Mario's point of view. From a legal perspective, he has the right to the rent. Mm-hmm. From a commercial perspective, he has to come along and say, what's my best outcome in these circumstances? And it might be to reduce the leased premises.
Good luck. So clearly a phone call to a lawyer, another lawyer, in order to send off a formal letter if he doesn't send the letter himself.
Yes.
Because the verbal conversations aren't going anywhere. Okay. Kevin is in Balwyn North. Kevin, what's happening?
Hi, folks. Thanks for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a situation where I'm the leaseholder in a large house, and which is a shared house. And I have one gentleman here who's been here for several years, but he continually causes distress to other residents. And it's got to the point where in October last year, I gave him written notice to leave the house within 4 weeks, but he refuses to go.
Can I ask, Kevin,
Yep.
what you say you're the leaseholder, do you own the property or are you...
I rent. I rent from an agent.
Okay, but yours is the name on the lease, not his?
Yes, correct. That's my name solely on the lease.
Okay, and you allow other people to share the house with you and
That's
they
correct.
make a contribution?
Correct.
Is there an agreement between you and them?
Yes.
And it says you can terminate on 4 weeks, or what does it say?
Yes. Either side.
Kevin, I'm going to have a look at the Residential Tenancies Act and see what your rights are and tell you next week.
That'd be great.
Right,
Tune
thank
in.
you.
Fantastic. So this one is yet to be answered. Brendan in Bentley, I think we've got a water damage question here. Hi, Brendan.
Oh, good morning, David, Virginia. Yeah, look, I moved into a property 2 weeks ago, and on Friday we had an unforeseen event as described by the landlord. Extensive water damage to my bed and others. I'm arguing the principle. They say I cannot get any compensation, but I'm just trying to work out my rights, please, David.
Brendan, what caused what damage was done?
So the roof collapsed because the box drains were blocked with pigeon feces, as described by the plumber, and my bed is now Oh, and yeah, so the roof partly gave way and then fully collapsed when I got back on Saturday morning. So they say that I should just pursue it through my own insurance and look at more about the principle, not so much the cost.
And would you argue that it was, I mean, we had some interesting rain on Friday, presumably an extraordinary amount of rain in your area?
Fortunately, I was working from home, so that I was able to. Yes, it was raining in my bedroom to start with.
No, I'm actually. The assumption is if it's what we're trying to establish is there's a want of an obligation that the landlord has to you. How did the landlord fail in his or her obligation to you? And there are a series of cases on water damage. Let me do it. Let's talk about it next week, Brendan.
That's fine. I look forward to it. Thanks,
Okay.
David.
All right,
Thank you.
another little bit of homework there. Do you think we could very quickly, just suspect it's a simple yes-no answer here. Laurie has called in from Mornington with a question that must affect a number of people, I'm sure. Laurie, good morning. Can you rather quickly ask your question?
Yes. Good morning, Virginia. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
David, my wife and my lawyer, my wife and my doctor are conspiring to prevent me from driving, despite the fact that I have a licence and my optometrist says that my eyes are okay. And they want to put a clause in my will to say that I am no longer allowed to drive. Can
I say when you die, Laurie, you're not allowed to drive at all. It's just one of the rules. Yep.
That's right.
So Laurie, I don't. There are a number of provisions in the Road Safety Act that protect the doctor. In fact, the doctor has an obligation to tell Vic Roads if the doctor doesn't think you're capable of driving. And let's be really honest, eyesight is only one of the aspects. Your ability to respond, to react to problems. So what happens is the doctor writes to Vic Roads and says, Laurie from Mornington, I don't think should be driving anymore. And you'll then get some advice from Vic Roads that might be an immediate suspension, but at the very least would require you to undergo another licence test.
Right, which I'm willing to do.
You are?
Well, it's perfect.
Well, then that might solve the matter, Laura, if you're willing to do that. Good on you. I'm going to assume, and I wonder if you do too, Laurie, that both your doctor and your wife care for you very much.
I guess so, yes.
All right, well, let's operate on that basis. Good luck with the next test, and that will tell all, won't it?
We'll tell them whether the government's prepared to let him to continue to drive or not.
Well, whether the driver is acceptable to the government enough to give him a licence.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go through that process. Laurie, let us know how you get on after that driving test. Always great to see you, David.
Thank you, Virginia.
He's got a bit of homework. If you are the homework ease, then please tune in next week. I'm sure you will. Who could miss it? And we'll have an answer for you.